Action.
Morgan.
Oh, let me just mute him again.
Stop muting me. Stop hating.
Here we go.
Hello, welcome to another episode of Umbra singing in the green room. When he gets muted.
Tell me how I feel.
All right, where is that mute button?
Every time I hear yours.
There we go.
There we go. We got him muted. He's all good.
He was in his bag though. He was.
Hear your hello.
Oh, he's
louder
back
now.
again.
Let's go. It's Friday. It's Friday.
Don't you have your own show?
Oh shit!
Telling you that only stay a while. Why is Holly and Riskit hating on me? Do you guys in the chat hear them hating on me actively? While Donte is the only one encouraging me. He's for the
Dante's
these
new.
two are
He's
not.
trying to keep the peace.
Nah.
Yeah.
Donte is a man of culture and taste. You
Call
two
the
just
mute button
don't
repair
get it.
guy.
Yeah.
That was chat,
shit.
not Riskit.
Hello, everybody.
Hey guys, how you doing? Welcome back to the episode of the Infinite Podcast. Huge week, a lot of news. Probably can't cover all of it. Pretty interesting week. We're probably going to bounce around a little bit. I know Holly's got. It's going to be a bit of a short show for Holly because she's got to get out and get to something that's apparently more important than us. I don't know what that could be.
We're not as cool.
But Donte, how's your week been? Welcome back. What have you been playing? What have you been up to? How's things?
Hey, my week's been great. Hello to you, to my fine panel members, and hello to the chat. Thank you guys for coming back and rocking with us. Week has been pretty awesome, man. I can't really complain, to be quite honest, man. I'm finishing up a very busy part of work that finally is seeming like there's some light at the end of the tunnel. In terms of what have I been playing, I just loaded back up D4, so I'm trying to figure out what build I'm going to go with. And I'm still kind of going through Fallout 4, and eventually I'm just preparing for Hellblade so I can rock that, and then preparing for the showcase, man. So yeah, things been good.
How are you liking Fallout 4?
Yeah.
We haven't talked about it at all.
Yeah, we'll have a side chat
terrible.
about that. But yeah, I've been enjoying it. Been having a good time.
Okay.
Terrible game. Umbra, welcome back. How's your week been? I see you got the full picture going on, so you figured that out. What have you been up to? How was the fix?
I keep forgetting. But not in living more.
Sorry. It's Friday, y'all. We're just trying to be festive. It's Friday.
Oh yeah.
Oh, damn.
I was about to hit you with the full chef from South Park singing. Anyway, no, man, it was been a really interesting week, full of rage and anger and incels and discussion and debate. Yeah. Shout out to the incels I insulted on Twitter. Yeah, man, I jumped into Ham Solos and Lokes and Cozy, their podcast earlier, just to have this discussion. It was really interesting, really passionate, and we had a really good discussion the other day. Had a 3-hour podcast. Shout out to Hargeet and to Logan for joining in as guests. Really good discussion, like I said. So it's a passionate situation and discussion to be had with the AC Shadows, of course. So appreciate it. I'm sure we're going to have one tonight. Happy to be here with you all tonight.
Shit's just getting ridiculous with that. Yeah, we'll get into that. We'll try to get to that. That's at the back end of the topics, but I don't know, man. I'm just really tired of this silly DEI stuff that just doesn't make any sense. Blue, how's your week been? What have you been up to? What have you been doing? What have you been playing? How's stuff? Everyone in the chat, welcome.
Hello. I have been playing. What have I been playing? I've been playing Dredge, going back for a little bit of a chill game, and I've been playing Fallout 76. And what else have I been playing? Call of Duty. That's kind of it, because I was in Seattle last week, and then this week I'm having a friend come and stay for a week, which is why I have to leave early. So I've been like doing stuff around the house, and thank you, Riskit, always doing that to me. And then I have that's pretty much it. Yeah, that's it. So
Do you wanna get up on that mic a little bit? Because I think you're a little bit low. I don't know
Oh,
why.
yep. Sorry.
I was going to say the same. Yeah.
Thank you,
Mhm.
everyone.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's pretty much it.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Oh,
everyone in the chat.
And doing this.
yep.
And doing this. Always doing that.
Oh yeah, everyone in the chat, welcome in. What have I been? I've been like playing Zao. I've got a script I'm doing for a video because I've started scripting them, and it's sort of blowing out to something huge. I was just showing the guys before, so it's going to be a long video, but it'll be good. Good video. My camera seems to have been the problem with the technical issues that I've been having. We've been having like the past couple of weeks, so I have scrapped the camera. I'm using my iPhone as my camera, and I've got another camera on the way, an Elgato face cam. Shout out to Elgato for providing that face cam at full price. Thank you very much. And also, I don't know if you guys can see in the background, but just here is like the 3 coins that I had, and I sort of got them in a setup. Now I've got to get a little thing because these came through. I don't know if you guys, am I holding these up right? Yeah. I don't know if it'll focus for me.
You need to put yourself on the front page like you do us.
But oh yeah, that's true. This is true. She's right. When she's right, she's right. These came through. Actually focuses pretty well, doesn't it?
It does.
The achievement one. It's cool. And then the Fallout one. Really, really good. And the Power World one. Really, really good. Excuse my horrible nails. I got to go and get my nails done. And then this one is probably, I think this one's with this and the Hellblade one is my favorites, man.
Yeah.
The Diablo.
The Diablo finish is just, it's top notch.
So good. So good. It is the honestly beautiful coin. So shout out to Ben Kenobi 2020 for sending those out, and for Blue. They are beautiful coins. So I got to get a bit of a setup going where I can have them displayed nicely up here. So I was pretty stoked when I got those. I had to get a tripod and everything for my iPhone. So been a bit of a busy week where I haven't played much, but I have been playing Zao. That's a really, really good game. A lot of people are playing Diablo. A lot of people are kicking off that Starfield 60 FPS sort of patch. And that's stuff I want to check out. A lot of people still playing Fallout, man. There's just a lot to play. But one of the games that people playing sort of to get back into it ready is Hellblade 1. I've seen a lot of people finishing that. Someone in the chat was saying they're just at the end of their Hellblade 1 play through. I think it was Jax82. Yeah, I haven't found all the lore stones either. There's a couple that I'm missing. That's the one achievement I don't have in the entire game. So yeah, maybe I'll go back through that. I don't know if I'll have time. I think I'm final boss on Zao, so I'll have a couple of days to fiddle about. So I might see what I'm going to play. But there's too much. I want to boot up Starfield. I want to boot up Diablo and see what the season's like. But anyway, let's get to the topics of the week. So I guess Hellblade. A lot of people are getting Hellblade 2 codes. Shout out to Xbox for excluding everyone on the Infinite podcast. Yeah, not Donte, not Riskit, not Blue,
not us.
Umbra. Not us.
Just the 4 of
No,
us,
we're yeah. Everyone else got a code except the 4 of us on the Infinite podcast. So shout out to Xbox. We're changing the name of the show to the Infinite PlayStation Podcast. No, anyway, so one thing that I found odd and is never a good sign, right? And I'm not talking bad, but I was just like, why are you doing this? That's a bit weird. And just one of those things that Xbox does. They do a lot of, why are you doing that? And that's the 1-day embargo. So on the launch of the game is when the reviews come out. And that's usually not a great sign, right? So I was a little bit confused as to why that would be. I would like to see the reviews come out, week beforehand, just sort of or a couple of days beforehand, so we can get a bit of a gauge on what the game's sort of looking like. Blue, you think that's a bad sign?
Well, it usually is, but and I was just gonna say, Cygnus put it in the chat, and that's the other thing. It's not one day; it's like 1 hour before. So, it is like the day it releases. It's right away. It is strange. I don't know though. I just can't imagine it being. I can't imagine it coming in worse than the first one, Metacritic wise, right? Like, I just can't imagine that. So I am a little surprised, but I don't know. Maybe they're trying to keep the hype as close to the showcase as they can. Maybe that's a strategy.
Yeah, that or the shortness of the game, and they want to make sure nothing gets out that could potentially be like considered a spoiler.
Yeah. Well, there is that. I mean, are you guys hyped for this? Because look, let's be honest, it was a bit of a niche title, right? And there's a lot of people I hear from like, oh, I didn't like this, I didn't like that, and I love the game. I thought it got a little, some of the puzzling in it got a little bit sort of samey towards the end. So I'm looking forward to them doing something a little bit more clever, but apparently the puzzles are very, very similar to what they were before. I know, I'm super hyped for this game, man. I think this is something that we need. Like, we need that over-the-shoulder, third-person sort of action adventure. Even though it's always been a bit of a dark sort of, it's, if you've played the first one, it's extremely dark. Blue, they're saying you're still a little bit low if you can crank yourself up. I don't know if I can actually do that. Last time I did that, I accidentally muted you. So yeah, I've got you on absolutely the highest you can. But Donte, did you play the first one? What are your thoughts? Are you hyped for this game, or are you iffy? Where are you at? How you feeling?
I'm hyped. I played the first game. I played it twice actually. So when it first came and released on Xbox, heard about people that talked about it who had it on PlayStation. For some reason, I missed it on PlayStation, even though I could have got it. But I got it on Xbox, beat it, and then I played it again probably, I don't know, maybe a year or so after the fact. So I'm all for it. I can understand those who had concerns about, like, the only thing I wanted was them to kind of expand on the combat. I enjoyed the combat, but it was probably like I won't say the weaker aspect, but it could have been better. It just seems like it was pretty standard. So if they've enhanced that a bit, I'll be pretty happy. It was always a very good looking game, and of course this one is probably one of the best looking games that we've seen in forever on console, to be quite honest. So yeah, I'm hyped for it. I'm just hoping that the story and combat still kind of come together cohesively, and if that works, then I'll be a happy camper in a few days.
Yeah, right. Because that was sort of one of my complaints as well. The combat was basic. It was still good, quite visceral, but it looks like they've fully upgraded this one. So yeah, I'm keen. But again, someone in the chat said Alvin saying, guys, they don't want spoilers. But I don't know, man. I don't feel like that holds up because normally no one reviews a game if they haven't. Well, hopefully, we hope no one reviews a game if they haven't completed the game, right? So I don't think the length of the game has a lot to do with it.
That's not true. If you went to Metacritic, people will already be ready with their accounts going, this game is 0 out of 10. I have no clue, but I just know it sucks.
Yeah, they gotta link people's gamers accounts to that stuff, like Steam. Umbra, how you feeling about the game? You ready? You hype? Down, not down. You up? You singing?
That was probably one of the worst introductions to a question to the I've ever heard. It was like, how you feeling? You up, down, left, right?
Pick an emotion.
Right. Up, down, man. Left, right, left,
Which
right.
What are you?
BA, select, start. What? How are you feeling about that?
What is the motion of your ocean?
Oh, like that's a secret. I can't tell you about that. Anyway, so no, I'm interested in playing it, man. I'm gonna pre-install it. I should have done it earlier. I'm gonna pre-install it to get it ready. Xbox has not gifted us any of the keys to play this early, so I'm going to trash it on YouTube and on Twitter, giving it a 5 out of 10. Yes. Yes, appropriate music for the occasion. I'm going to do it. No, matter of fact, a 4 out of 10, Jimquisition style. Yeah, I'm excited. I love the first game. I thought it was really great. I'm one of the few, one of the few who had got 1,000 achievements out of it. Some apparently didn't. The
I
achievement
can't
list
find
for
a
this.
rune, man. There's a rune out there somewhere that I can't find. So
Oh, so you one of the
Same.
less. Oh, both of you. But one of
Yeah.
the lessers.
yeah.
Oh.
I got the 900, man. I just need that rune, and I couldn't find the rune. And I was like,
Yeah.
look, I love the game, but I did not want to go back through that whole game again to find the rune. So I was like, yeah, no, that'll do.
Hey, listen. Yeah, you all of listen. Those that do. Those that can't, that.
It's not that
Anyway,
that's the wrong word.
No, I'm excited as hell, man. I'm really excited. I finished up. I'm finishing up New Game Plus for Stellar Blade, so that's perfect time for me to jump right into Hellblade. It's short. I've heard already tell that it's about 8 hours of gameplay. I actually wanted it to be longer than that. I think we spoke. Well, I know we spoke on this before, and what it seemed to be when they showed it off and like showing some of the land off, the Icelandic land and all of that, it seemed like they were kind of going open world style. I think we all agreed, at least semi-open maybe, and it seems that's not going to be the case. 8 hours of gameplay.
Not with an 8-hour game. Yeah.
Not going to happen. Exactly. So that part is a little disappointing. I wanted it to turn into something more, but then again, hey, they have to tell their vision. They have to, tell their vision of the story. So it is what it is. And the way that they've discussed it, one of like the head producer dev of the project, Dom, who was on a podcast with Paris and Greg, were kind of funny. He spoke about it even on a sense of combat, how they wanted it to be special. Like even when you encountered people for combat, they wanted to have this focus that it tells, helps tell the story. So they have a very specific way they like to do what they do, Ninja Theory. So I think 8 hours is what they feel they need to kind of get that story out as far as this goes. But yeah, I'm excited to get into it. Like I said, it's only short, so it's going to be one of those quick weekend games. It seems like, or I guess 2 days worth of game, and that's really it for me. But yeah, man. When is the better? By the way, when is the official launch? It's the 21st.
21st. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So
I think
there's about 40 gigabytes of a download, I believe.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, so I think we get it like 21st. I get it at 4 p.m. The east of Australia gets it at 6 p.m. And I think you guys have got it at 12, your midnight. Is it Pacific time? They usually go with Pacific time, right? East, is it?
East. I think it's
Okay.
EST. Yeah.
No,
I'm definitely excited.
Like,
hearing good things about it, though.
Yeah, because we were hearing some stuff about it beforehand, right? That internally, it was like it was testing well. That they thought that like they had something that was going to be like, like a pretty good Metacritic review score wise internally, is something that
you mean like Redfall?
Rumors about. No, we were hearing that about Redfall. no one was ever hearing that about Redfall. Stop that. But no, we were hearing that about Hellblade, that they were feeling pretty good about how it was testing internally, and that they thought they were going to have one that was going to be that was going to score pretty well critically in terms of its Metacritic and whatnot. So I'm not worried about like how the game's going to be in that regard. It's just that like I remember this was the game when they announced the Series X, right? This was kind of like, I think it was the same night that Phil announced the Series X, if I'm not mistaken, right? Where he was like, and here's a game that's basically running an engine, and it was this trailer. So you were just thinking that like, as you got closer to the release, that you guys would be going full board and like really, really ramping up kind of like the hype for it. And it seems like that, like, that's kind of weird with just the 1 hour before, the embargo dropping 1 hour before the release. Like, I would just feel that, I thought that they were going to be like, if you felt really confident about it, hype this thing up like crazy, especially since it's going to be an 8-hour campaign. Hype it up like crazy, get as much out of it as you can. But I don't know. Maybe there's
Well,
maybe there's a reason for that.
Well, the hype leading into it hasn't been great. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, Aaron Greenberg put out that tweet that he's had that marketing meeting and they're doing this, they're doing that. And my Instagram is nothing to do with gaming. I'd stay away from gaming. It's mostly just stuff for a laugh on my Instagram. And so the algorithm doesn't direct me towards gaming. And I've literally seen one. I saw one ad come up. I was like, oh shit, there's one ad. But like, I mean, you would be trying to push that game to people who don't have gaming in their algorithm, right? Bring them in, let them know that this is an exclusive on Xbox, but it doesn't seem like they've done that. So yeah, I don't know. The marketing hasn't been great for it. Let's be fair, but the marketing hasn't been great for Xbox. We've been talking about this for about 4 years. So yeah, I mean, I'm super hyped for the game. I can't wait. I mean, I don't care if it's a short experience. Like it just depends on the gameplay. You could give me a short game. I love a short game. Zhao's a short game. I've been playing it for about a week. So, you know, that's supposed to be a 10-hour experience. I don't have a hell of a lot of time. So when I get one of those big games, I generally find it hard to sort of get through the whole block, right? That sort of takes up a good couple of months for me because I'm pretty busy. So yeah, I don't mind a good 8-hour game. I'll probably turn it into 10 hours, get lost or something. Who knows? We're going to jump on to the next topic before we do, guys. Please hit the like button, share us out. We go live every Friday, 8:15 EST. And if you're in Australia, it's 11 a.m. and in the East, West Coast, Best Coast, it's 8 a.m. Fonz, how you doing, man? Great to see you in the chat. It's been a while. Going to move on to the next topic, and this is it's every week, man. Every week, same thing. Get some positive stuff, and then it's like, oh shit, here we go. So earlier in the week, WCCF Tech reported on something that Jez Corden said, saying that there is basically no red line for the Xbox leadership when it comes to first-party games coming across to other consoles. And they focused on PlayStation. And then there's just been a slew of rumors of games coming. So talking about the MCC coming, you know, talking about Forza coming over. There's just ever since that thing, Jez did come out and correct and say he's taken me out of context again. But obviously this conversation's just going to continue to keep going. Just much like the DEI conversation, this is going to be a thing. And I sort of feel like Xbox has done this to themselves. Like, this is their own fault. You know, their messaging's been poor. And again, it's not the bringing the 4 games over to the other platform. It's how it all came to light, which is not 110% their fault because it did get leaked. But I guess how they handled it in the podcast, you know, Sarah Bond's interview about the closure of 4 studios and, you know, the looking forward was, to me, I have to say, I love Sarah. Sarah is a great person. I had a chance to meet her at the Fan Fest and have a chat with her, but very much that interview was word salad. So the media is going to continue to do this. You haven't come out and refuted anything. So really I'm just sort of getting a little bit disappointed in the doom and gloom. I honestly don't care. Because, and I am doing this video, it is scripted, and you'll see why I don't actually care. I think exclusives are important. We have to have exclusives, but I don't think it's a big deal if you're bringing other games over to the other platform if they're going in the direction that I believe they're going in. But I want to kick it to the panel. You guys obviously saw this. We're going to have to deal with this probably, I would say, until, you know, either Xbox goes full third party or comes out with some solid concrete way of letting people know of what's going to be what, where's it going to go, you know, what is an exclusive, what isn't exclusive, you know, are they going to have exclusives? Like, they need to come out and sort of let us know. And until they do, the media is going to continue to do this. So, Holly, what were your thoughts on this?
I mean, they've set it up to always now be the question, right? It's always going to be the question. It's unfortunate that this is where we're at. It's kind of almost like a just go all the way or say we're not doing it or whatever, right? It's just more ambiguity, but I expect more titles to go to PlayStation. I would not be surprised if I see the Master Chief Collection go to PlayStation. I would not be surprised if I saw a Gears Legacy collection, Marcus Phoenix collection, whatever we want to call it, go to PlayStation. I don't think the new games will go, at least right away, or who knows, maybe it's here's a taste of what it is, and if you want more than that, come join us. I'm not sure, and I don't really frankly think that they know exactly where they're going with it either. I think, everybody tests things. They're testing the waters with the potential of, you know what, we're Microsoft and we are super good at software, and we are super good at working with a lot of people to provide our software to people, and that's what we know, and that's what we want our Xbox division to be. I just don't know. I don't think that
Mm-hmm.
gaming is ran the same as the rest of what Microsoft does, but the financial pockets might want to see it go that way. It might be easier for them. I just
Well,
think we're in a world of we're just in a world of transition, and I think they're trying a bunch of things and they're not 100% sure what that even looks like at the end of the day.
Who's transitioning? But we sorry. I look, I 110% agree. I mean, look at it's just confusing messaging, right? Like we should be 100% at this point on what's going into Game Pass. And if there's any question about what's going into Game Pass, like COD, earlier in the month, there's the push and pull of whether COD was going in, wasn't going in.
Well, Game Pass is a
Xbox should
different
come out and address those.
Game Pass is a
Well,
completely
no, it's
different story. Like
it's
versus
a
what
broader
games leave the
problem.
platform.
Well, no, it's a
Well,
broader
it's
problem. Like
only
it's their messaging.
I think it's only a question now because of the recent acquisition of ABK. If they hadn't bought ABK, I don't think anybody would be questioning if we were getting Hellblade 2, if we're getting Clockwork Revolution, if we're getting Indiana Jones. Like none of that would have been questioned if it was in Game Pass. It's just now they bought the juggernaut. Literally the juggernaut in Call of Duty, right? What do they do with it? And they've alluded to the fact that COD was going to be in Game Pass, but they've never 100% said Call of Duty will be in Game Pass day one. And I'm talking like back in even before the acquisition, there was they were alluding to it in February. They alluded to it. Now Sarah Bond sat down and said things that were much more definitive towards ABK, but not Call of Duty. Maybe they were holding that announcement until the showcase in June. But, they're in a little bit of a PR rut right now. It might have been a good time to kind of be like, well, yes, this happened, but we're going to put Call of Duty in. Or, there's been a lot of rumors about a new sub-tier for Game Pass, and maybe that's the announcement.
Well,
I
yeah,
think that if you do a new tier, it can't only be for Call of Duty. I think you have to put Ubisoft Plus or EA Play Games Day One, those kinds of things. I think you have to find something different to add to it. Or Battlefield, or, all of these live service games from other parties day one, something like that. I'm not sure what that looks like, but I don't think you can only make a new tier just for Call of Duty.
No, I don't think you make a new tier just for Call of Duty, but I think you can up the price when the value of Game Pass or the perception of value goes up. Like, absolutely, you can do that. And
did you see Klobrel tweet about that today? He said,
no.
I've given Microsoft a lot of, grief lately, but I actually can't blame them for considering, a price change in Game Pass tiers given the value that's there.
Yeah, and absolutely, I 110% agree with Klobrel. But I mean, they got to get their messaging right. Like, so if I'm paying for a tier, and obviously you can unsubscribe and subscribe. If I'm paying for a tier, I want to know what I'm going to get. So am I going to get if they acquire Crystal Dynamics? Is that off those games off the table? Like, or we shouldn't be having this conversation at this point about whether COD is on or off the table. And if that conversation is happening, they should then come out and dispel it. Like, it should be an instant, like, yes, we're having conversations about whether we're putting it in there, or no, we're not putting it in there, or yes, we are putting it in there. It shouldn't be left to insiders to sort of find out what's going on. Also, I was having a chat just quickly, I was just having a chat to someone in the background, and they in conversations about an advertising tier. That's a conversation they're having at the moment.
Well, EA
So like an ad,
right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and there's
Or Ubisoft
Microsoft's
and
having a
whatever.
conversation about it as well.
Well,
so I think it'll be something we see.
I don't know. You know, it's purely hypothesis, right? Like, I don't know a year ago that Xbox execs thought that we would be here now, right? I don't know if they thought once we acquire ABK that Microsoft is going to have more to say. I don't know. Maybe they did. Maybe they knew this was all coming. Or maybe, you know, after they were allowed to close on the deal, things changed. And now that's why that conversation is being had. Maybe that's why it's taking so long to get some of these old Call of Duty games to come into Game Pass. Like, there's a lot of things that we don't know, and we feel the winds of change coming out of those offices. So if it hadn't been ABK, if it had been Crystal Dynamics or Eidos Montreal or somebody else, I don't think we would be having this conversation. But because of the financial investment that Xbox now owes back to Microsoft, and you know, the fact that the economy is also going the opposite way, that they're in a unique situation where they're having to justify decisions a little bit more than they probably did before.
Yeah, and I think it's hard for them, and sorry, Umbra and Donte. I think it's hard for them though to it's hard to show bean counters how exclusives can move a needle, whether they be in Game Pass, like, you know, it's exclusively in a subscription service, not an exclusive. But it's hard to show bean counters how exclusive games and putting games in Game Pass can shift the needle for Xbox. You know, that data would be difficult to come by or pre-prove. You know what I mean? Whereas you can tell your bean counters, hey, we sell this number of you know, Call of Duty copies and at this price, and we get this much. That's really easy. When it comes to, you know, Game Pass subscriptions, console sales, it's really hard to put that down to a single thing. Right now in the United States, there's that 80% spike in Xbox sales. That could be down to Hellblade 2. That could be down to the announcement that Call of Duty is definitely going into Game Pass. It's not an announcement, obviously, it was from leaks. That could be down to a lot of things. And this is where Xbox needs to really, I think, understand that their messaging is important, and the messaging that they send out to people and how they market that is going to affect their sales, is going to affect what happens. Like, this is not something that's new either. I find it sort of really odd. You know, it's no different in the video game industry as it is into the financial industries. You announce bad news, your stock price goes down. You know, if you announce bad news or there leaks bad news within, you know, about gaming, your stock price obviously doesn't go down, but people are less trusting in your brand, less likely to buy into your brand. It's a thing they need to get right, and they just have not been getting it right since the Xbox One days. Umbra, how are you feeling about Xbox's messaging around, like, you know, Call of Duty, you know, the whole slate? If that's what's happening, if they're doing the whole slate, let's just rip that Band-Aid off, right, and just jump straight in there and say, hey, we're doing this. How are you feeling about where they're at?
Well, I think Xbox sometimes is their own worst enemies, but I don't know how you can rip that right off. I mean, I was having this discussion with somebody earlier. Actually, it's funny you said that, because our conversation centered around the thought of how does Microsoft best unveil, you know, the plan if they are going to go full whole slate like that. I don't know necessarily if it'll be everything, but I know that it'll be more. I think we can all agree there. And I mean, you yourself posted about Hellblade 2 likely having a PlayStation port. Not even likely, you said it did, right?
It does have one. And people get pissed off that I say it, but I know it exists because it exists.
Yeah, and so, and to your credit, you held your ground with that, and Jez challenged you on that on Twitter, saying, "Oh no, this is wrong," and such and such. but now he's posting Project Latitude. You see what I mean? So I think where there is smoke, there is fire. But yeah, they are their own worst enemy when it comes to messaging and marketing and everything else. It seems to be the case nowadays. But yeah, I don't know how you can properly tell an audience you've trained and gaming has trained for decades and generations, even, that exclusives matter, and then say, oh no, they don't matter anymore. Here they go. PlayStation can get our games. Because much like Holly mentioned a minute ago, I also heard those rumors. That it wasn't just her positing that thought, like, oh, I can see these games going over there. I literally heard that those games are going over there. Master Chief Collection and Gears Collection specifically. I've heard those are going over there. And that'll be announced at the showcase, possibly. Not joking when I say this. The only reason I'm not tripping.
MCC?
Yeah, MCC and Gears.
Yeah, I've been hearing that one too.
Yeah, so
But they
again,
wouldn't announce that at the Xbox showcase, though.
Maybe not. Maybe. I don't know.
Never know.
I don't think.
Yeah, it all depends, I guess, on their overlords. Satya's like, tell them now. Put
I
would
mean,
let
that's going to be a
Sony
hot
announce
or
it.
the 66.
They would let
like,
Sony do it at their showcase, but they wouldn't do it at their own.
maybe, I guess so. I mean, even I don't know how that'll be received either. Imagine Sony coming out. Oh yeah, we're getting Master Chief Collection. I don't know how that would be. I don't think you can. Once you uncork that type of genie, I don't know how you can put that back. I just see like mass exodus on the Xbox side.
It needs to be on one of their like kind of like one of the throw off shows, you know, like ones that they do where they're just kind of like, you know, it's like a curated 45-minute thing that they do like several times throughout the year. That's one where they kind of just similar to how he did his recent kind of update on the business that kind of told us about the games that we saw that were going. It needs to be one of those that they announce it on.
But just don't forget, they weren't going to say anything about it until after Nintendo and Sony had already announced
That's true.
that those games were coming there.
Those
so
leaks
they weren't
happened.
going to do it themselves. Remember, they didn't even give the names. Like they let their partners do it.
It's just like if you're going to do it now, though. So if you're at this point where you're saying, okay, we're going to announce some additional games that are going over there, I don't think your conference, right, your special conference that you've held every year in June is the one that you say, and by the way, here are the games that are going over to PlayStation if you're a PS5 owner. Like I don't think.
Oh, and one more thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And one more thing.
Like you don't announce it at that. Is my
yeah. Imagine that shit, man. How you? I don't know how. Again, either way, however they do it, I know Alvin is like he'll donate 100. Yeah, I think Blue was right about that, and you're right too, Alvin. They won't do it at the show. I'm guessing that's correct. I mean, it's just that's more of a slap to the face to the community if they did, but it will happen at some point, and no matter where they do it at, I just don't see the community reacting well to that. You know what I mean? Like me myself, even though I've embraced the PC overlord and all that, even though I have been enlightened, much to Holly's chagrin. She's trying to hide it now with a smile, but she's really like, ugh. Yeah, see? Even with that, I still feel a way hearing, oh, Halo is going over there. It's like, what'd you say to me? I'm gonna do a Steve Harvey. What your ass say? Like, I don't know how you can tell me that. Yeah, I don't know how I can hear it. I don't think anybody would want to hear that on the Xbox side of things and be okay with that. I don't know. I don't know how that doesn't sit well with me, but I get it from a business standpoint. And maybe it's going to do something. Maybe it's the way things are going to go. Sony is moving more in a direction of sharing is caring too. So it's not just Microsoft. It's a gaming wide situation now. And Sony is going to be going day and day. We've talked about this. Sony is going to be going day and day to PC, and some of those games are probably more than likely going to hit Xbox too. So I'm guessing there'll be specific titles, obviously, but because Sony still has a model of wanting to sell those consoles, Microsoft doesn't have that. As that's not their biggest goal. Their goal is to get you to subscribe. So with Call of Duty being now officially or more officially said to be coming to the service, that is a super positive for Xbox. But because, again, I had the thought of, I don't see that happening without some concessions. And I still feel that way. I still think there's going to be some type of tier system added. I've said this already before. If they are going to put it into the service, they're going to raise that price at some point. And yeah, it's not unreasonable, as you guys were saying, but how much is raised before it's unreasonable? You see what I mean? Because we used to have that thought of, oh, $25, is that too much a month, right? Yeah, I think that's a lot to ask somebody to pay $25 a month for a gaming service. So that's not the number. I'm just throwing it out there. What is too much? So that's the problem. Something has to give when it comes to them adding such a value into it. But then again, they have to give us reason to subscribe to that ultimate or new ultimate tier as well. It's tricky. But I hope them all success.
I don't know if they.
It's tricky.
I don't know if they tier up though. I don't know if they go like if.
There you go. Hey, she finally caught the karaoke bug.
I don't know if they bring a new tier that's super high. I think maybe they add an extra $5 to the top tier and then maybe bring in an advertising tier to bring people across into the ecosystem.
The super high tier is though. So I'm curious if like Hi-Fi Rush is really sticking in my head for some reason right now. And what I mean by that is trying to understand what are they using to gauge a game's successful metrics, right? So if they're looking at it and they're saying that like, okay, games that we're going to lose out on the sale of the game because we're putting it into Game Pass, how do we make up for the fact that we're not getting that initial purchase for it? And however people are playing the game, so they're going to have a tier structure where the highest tier is kind of like, this is definitively the hottest new day and date, and maybe the lower tier is kind of like staggered. You get yours 3 months later, 6 months later for that game that released. Otherwise, you would pay for it if you're on the lower tier, but you get a bunch of other stuff that's third party. You know what I'm saying? Because like, what's going to be that differentiator if they're going to raise the price on it? Like, I feel it's inevitable. Like all subscription services will incrementally start to raise their prices at some point. It's just that's just basically how it's going to work out because business dictates it, right? But if you're come up with this super tier, what's the value and what's the differentiator?
We're already seeing the consolidation of streaming services. Just I can't remember the two companies that one company was buying into. It wasn't Paramount, someone else. Sony was buying Paramount, but I think it's Hulu was buying someone else up. And going forward, we're going to start to see that consolidation of subscription services. And in gaming, what we're seeing is them consolidate the actual studios. So that's going to happen, and Game Pass will end up being that premier service. But as you say, it would be very interesting to see if they tier it like that. If they say, this is core, this is your Game Pass lower tier, this is your Game Pass ultimate tier, and this is just your signing up to live or whatever. If they bring that tier back. I don't know. Too many tiers are a bit of a problem. You don't want too many tiers. We already see that on Twitter. There's tiers everywhere. But the one thing I will say is that we really, I am super, super stoked that they made this decision, if it is indeed true, that they've made this decision to put COD into the service, because they will get to gauge what kind of a shift that brings them. It could go either way. It could go, right, that didn't give us, we made a bunch of sales on PlayStation and we got a bunch of console sales over here and we got a bunch of Game Pass subscriptions. This is great for us. We'll keep it like it is. We'll keep adding it to Game Pass. It'll bring people into the service, or we make the sales on PlayStation. Or we get a bunch of sales on PlayStation, not much movement on Xbox, then we get a problem. That's when I think they'll start to look at Game Pass and not just COD. I think they'll look at Game Pass as a game by game sort of basis and say this one is going and this one isn't going, and that's my concern. But at least they are doing it, and to see what the metrics are.
I'll say this: if they go that route,
right? Last week we were talking about if you're making a decision where you're saying we're not going to sell one of the game that basically is always at the tops of the charts every year in terms of its sales. If you're going to put that into Game Pass, there has to be a number that they're looking at in terms of net new subscribers to Game Pass of people who mainly play COD, right? So if they end up getting between PC and between Xbox, they end up netting 5 million or 10 million more Game Pass subscribers who primarily play COD all year, then they're probably saying, no, that works, right? Because that works out for us versus if they had just paid for the initial $70 for the game. But if that doesn't grow, if it only grows 1 million or 2 million, we're probably not going to see that in the next iteration of whatever COD comes out. It's probably not going to be there if it barely
Yeah,
moves
it's a
the needle.
concern.
My thing too, though, Risk, to what you were saying. I mean, if they go that route, it's just I don't know how they can win that. It's a disaster PR wise again for them. If they say, "Oh, well, we're gonna start taking some of these out and not putting them in here," even though we promised that we would put all the games in there. You know what I mean? It's like they're trapped. They have to put those games in there, and that was why I was so like the Call of Duty thing with discussion was so contentious to me, because if they don't put that in there, I talked to people behind the scenes, and they were like, if they do that, I'm revolting, because that was the promise, and all of a sudden now, like, oh well, not this one though, and so I don't know, I just don't think they can afford to do that just PR wise. That's part of the problem.
The thing is, I think they will. And I think that because I think that Microsoft does not give a shit about the hardcore. Like 110%, they don't care. I think the Xbox leadership still does. I think they're still like, we this is our core audience and we need to look after them. These guys have been with us since day one. I think they're walking a bit of a tightrope, but I don't think Microsoft cares. I think Microsoft will be like, right, that's it. We tried it. It didn't work. We're going to go full third party, and we're going to pick and choose which games go into Game Pass. And, it could even end up that they kill Game Pass. Now, they lose a huge influx of audience. And I did that thing, Umbra, like with, I sort of was talking to people, and after talking to Garuda, and he's like, if Game Pass is done, I'm out of here. I'm not. Like, Game Pass has never been Xbox to me. I've always been on Xbox, and I've always purchased my games. It's only been since 2018 is when it really ramped up, where Game Pass has been around. So if it goes away, I don't go away. And that's not to encourage them. If you're watching, I will go away. No kidding. That's not to encourage them to do this. But it's just the fact that
Riskit is happy. Let us cancel Game
There
Pass.
it is. Cancel it. You heard it here first. Shut it down, folks.
But like, you will not. I won't shut up about it. I'll be all over Twitter, like ripping into them. But I'm not going anywhere. So, I think there'll be a lot of the hardcore that don't.
I think it would be extremely difficult for them to get rid of Game Pass now. Now, strip it, modify it. Yes, they could definitely do that. But to get rid of it, I think would be really, really hard for them to do.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying that they're going to get rid of it. I'm not
I
saying
mean, look
that,
at they even got Sony to make some sort of equivalent, tiered structure in theirs just because it was successful, right? And Sony's found a way, we think, to make it work. So, Xbox isn't going to abandon it, but
it's still the premier
Sony's
model
version
right now, right?
Sony's version is trash, by the way.
Yeah, it's still the premier model. Why would you?
We're not talking about that though. We're just saying that they have something that.
Yeah, they've
If Sony
been influenced
finds
by
a
them for
value
sure.
in what they have, they're making money on it because they're not the type to do something that's not going to make
just because Xbox is doing it.
Yeah, Sony does prone to follow Xbox though, by the way. But yeah, you're right. They're definitely seeing some worthwhile, metrics there. Obviously, they've also shifted the talk of sales to MAUs now too, much like Microsoft. Sony has. So
the active users versus sales of the consoles and software. I saw that
they're
too.
Probably. Do you think they're going to be actively tracking microtransaction sales from Game Pass subscribers versus from somebody playing on a Game Pass subscription versus somebody who purchased?
They have to be doing that already, right? Because that's one of the things I think that leads into some of
Game Pass subscribers though right now. You know what I mean? It's not in Game Pass at the moment.
You talking about for COD?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. I imagine that has to be a metric that they're going to be looking at because I think didn't Sarah say that people who are subscribed to Game Pass end up spending more within the ecosystem, right? So they have to see if that proves to be truthful, right? Because the people who are not going to pay $70 now for the game, they're going to hope they're going to be the ones who are going to be more inclined for all of the additional skins and battle passes or whatever. The microtransactions because they didn't have to fork up the $70 for the game.
That's what you
hope. Agreed. Yeah, I mean, agreed as well, but you've got them in the ecosystem. And once they're in the ecosystem, sure, they might just play COD, but they'll play something else here and there, right? That'll come into, or they'll buy skins or whatever it is that they do. You're going to make money, you know, and I think they'll be tracking those metrics that you're talking about. They'll also track like the other metrics of like, what are these guys buying within the ecosystem? You know, are they buying just the skins from COD? Are they buying small little indie games? Did they get the next AAA blockbuster on Xbox that was third party, that wasn't in Game Pass? All that sort of stuff. I think that they'll 110% track. And if they're not tracking that, that would be foolish, because you need that information to bring to the bean counters when they say we lost X amount of sales. Well, you need to come back at that P&L and say, yes, but in our services and our sales from this uptick in subscribers and people in the ecosystem, we made this. Right? If they don't do that, then that's nuts to me.
They would also be. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. Sorry. Well, I was going to say, it doesn't make sense to have like the premier subscription gaming service, and you don't find ways to then improve it, right? Like you have a pretty sizable amount of people who are already in it, and yeah, okay, so say it's not making as much money as you wanted it to at this time, right? You got to find ways to then change that to get it to the point where you want. But like reversing course in some way, I can't see that happening considering the lead that they have. You know, it's like you've done all this work. You got to find ways to basically capitalize on the work, as opposed to saying, okay, well, now we're going to go ahead and start weaning you off of it.
I don't think it's a weaning off. I think it's a I think the tier system makes sense. They're like, okay, we need to pull some more money out of this. Let's milk our whales. You know, and then there's also bringing in the new people. So let's do an ad tier. And then have that one in the middle that people can subscribe to, you know, and get COD through, and then there might be a case by case basis. Core
was it?
But you're look, and I know this is a thing, but like this would be conversations they're having. 110%. They're like, do we need to put all of these games in? Like, what would they do in sales? Like Hellblade, you'd 110% put in, right? Because that's high value in Game Pass, but less value in sales, I think. You know, COD would be one of those ones that you have in that conversation where, like, it sells gangbusters, so we don't need to put this in. The conversations are definitely being had, and I think Call of Duty is going to be the reason they go whichever way they go. Because they'll look, there's no better game to test Game Pass out. Like, if it matters what games you put in Game Pass, then COD will be the game that proves it matters, or it doesn't. But also, look at Netflix when we talk about how they make record profits and they're killing it. And how did they get there? They just threw content at the wall. They just started making content. That's all that Microsoft needs to do. I keep saying this. Like, people say it's everything else but the games, but it's games.
Like, wasn't that the whole idea of why they bought Bethesda, ABK, and basically every other studio? Is the idea is that you were trying to load up with as much content as possible, so that way you can flood it into your subscription service and get people to sign up for it,
and make it irresistible.
That's the whole idea of why they were going through this, right? You needed enough content to keep people consistently subscribed. So it doesn't make sense to me that you've now at a point where you have a lot of studios and a lot of projects that, you know, could be released on an annual cadence. Flood the market, man. Flood your system and make people be like, I gotta stay subbed. Or if you unsubscribe, you're going back a month or two later because the next hot game is dropping.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, agreed. And have a year tier. They still don't have a tier that you can subscribe to for a year. That's a year of guaranteed money coming in. Like, how is that not a thing? That's crazy to me. We've got some violence in the chat. I'll just quickly read out the violence.
Going ham on Umbra, man. Umbra. Fight back, Umbra. Fight back, man.
We got that. We got Lotus Spree with $10 super chat says at that blue number. We appreciate you very much. You're an absolute champion.
Way to single her out, Lotus, and
yeah, they're right.
Hey,
man. Wow.
Every time you do this, every time you put a super chat that says that, I'm going to do this. It's
it's too late. She tried to get too late, Lou.
This is not a super chat, but fun speculation. Mav from Fun Speculation. Shout out to Mav. He says, that is Umbra's metahuman in Unreal 5. That gave me a giggle. And Spartan661, it says, Infinite Umbra, you probably look better than the shrimp on the Barbie, Riskit for the biscuit, cooks on camera, I'm just having fun with my favorite podcasters. That's not true. I'm highly attractive.
He said
Extremely
infant
attractive.
Umbra, not infinite. He put infant.
He did say it, but I assumed he meant infinite.
Oh no, he meant infant because that's the second time he wrote it. I see you, Spartan. I see you. All love though.
Yeah, I mean, look, Xbox just needs to get the messaging right. So, I mean, it just need to get the messaging right. They just need to come out at this June showcase and look, tell us what you're doing. We know you're bringing games, right? But just lay down the absolute law. And there is some part of me that thinks doesn't matter what they say, the media is going to be questioning it, and but you need to be more solid with what you're doing going forward. Like make sure there's no room for stop the corporate speak. Just be dead. Like every one of our first party games will be going in no matter what until the end of the year, and then we'll reassess or some shit. I don't know. I'm just tired of the uncertainty that goes around the community. It's really, really tiresome. Oh, he's out of here.
Man,
he's gone. He left. He upset him.
We lost Umbra? No. My fear is that I don't know if we're going to get that type of clarification during the June showcase, man. I feel like most of it's going to be about whatever games are coming out, right? Trying to keep it tight and tailored. So it's kind of like, if they're going to clarify what their plans are, at what point in time are you going to do this? And I don't know if the showcase is going to be it. I would like for it to be, but it doesn't seem like it. A part of me feels like they don't really know. You know, like they're still reacting to like what's either happening with inside of the industry, or if they're still kind of concerned about the FCC breathing down their necks. Like, who knows? But it seems like some things that they're doing or not doing is just basically because they're still trying to figure it out. So it's kind of like we might still be in this state of limbo going into the end of the year or into next year of not fully knowing.
Yeah, and we're gonna like you say, but it's again, the media doesn't help. There is an Xbox tax, and anything they do report on, they report on negatively. Even when we hear about this is not a topic, but they're opening that new studio, and it was, Microsoft shuts down studios. Michael, welcome to the show, Microsoft. Microsoft shuts down studios, Xbox shuts down studios, and then when they open a studio, it's Activision Blizzard opens a new studio. You know what I mean? There's no credit, but there's always blame. So yeah, there is an Xbox tax. Anyone who says there isn't, degrees of what people think it is, totally different thing. Guys, please hit the like button. Share us out. We go live every Friday at 8 p.m. EST. If you're in the US, if you're in Australia, it's 11 a.m. EST. If you're the West Coast, best coast of Australia, it is 8 a.m. And we 159 people across all platforms. Thank you for joining us, guys. You're absolutely amazing in the chat there. I don't know why. I'm not Sean Connery. Microsoft.
We've lost them. Indeed.
Square Enix is going full third party. Really interesting. This in earnings call, sort of a lot came out of it. I'm just chasing down the quote. Square Enix has highlighted some of their major challenges, including low profitability at the HD games and a slowdown in the games for smart devices, PC browser, and a subsegment insufficient franchise by franchise portfolio management, and some gaps in the group's management infrastructure. As financial report, Square Enix reboots and awakens a 3-year foundation laying for long-term growth and will aggressively pursue a multi-platform strategy that includes Nintendo platforms, PlayStation, Xbox, and PCs that will cover the fiscal year ending March 31, 2025 through the fiscal year ending March 31, 2027. This is good news if you're an Xbox fan. We've been watching these guys be disappointed in every release that they've had since, I don't know, time immemorial. Not happy with that game. Not happy with that game. Not happy with that game. I honestly don't think that they're gonna be happy with any game. And I think this is a sort of a litmus test or a gauge of what the AAA industry is doing. They're spending too much and making too little for the growth that they expect. And I think it's, the expectations. It's not that they're not making money. I think Square Enix was down though. They did have profits, so they are making money. They're just not growing. And unfortunately, in capitalism, you have to grow your business. and they're just not. So I don't know. I feel Nintendo's sort of got it right. Nintendo's like, we're making money, we're not growing, but we're making money. They didn't have a great year. They had sales of Switches are down, and instead of firing people, they're giving people raises and opening whole new studios. And I don't know. I sort of feel like, that's a long term. That's looking at the down the line, right? That's sort of a long term investment, and that's what you should be doing in gaming. I think Square Enix is. They just want that cash return on every investment at every single time, and it doesn't work like that. Sometimes you got to throw a whole bunch of games at the wall, AAA, AA, indie, whatever they are, and eventually you're going to get something back that hits big for you. But you have to continue to do that over time, and it's not going to be every game. Like seems like Square Enix is like, this is the one that's going to grow the business. Disappointed. All right, this is the one. Disappointed. This is what.
Come on, baby. Papa need a new pair of shoes. Here we go.
Go on. It's unbelievable. Umbra, I'll jump to you. I just got to quickly nick out. I got a message, so I got to quickly address that, and I'll be right back. But Umbra, I'll kick it to you. Square Enix going third party means a lot of things. Means Final Fantasies coming over to Xbox. Means any new IPs coming to Xbox. This is a good thing for the industry, I think. Overall.
It's a great thing for the industry. We talked about this the other day as well, and it's well past time they went full, open to all platforms. It's stupid that they had this structured release thing where they would put some on PC eventually at all. It should have been day and date all along. They've only hurt themselves having exclusivity to Sony. Now, for the longest time, I had imagined that Sony would actually, or Square was positioning themselves, especially once they got rid of their Western division, to make themselves lighter for Sony to purchase. That didn't turn out to be the case. So once that ended, it was like, okay, then what are you doing still being a de facto first party for Sony and losing out on profits? It made no sense, and it still makes, it's silly,
bro.
Yeah, and
that's what it is.
No, you're good. And like, I can see if they say, hey, well, Xbox is not giving us as much, sales as we want, which is up there again, like much like we talked about Microsoft being their issues being a product of themselves. This is Square's product of the issues as well, as a product of themselves, because they isolated Xbox as for so long. It would only put so many titles on the platform, and then once some don't do well, oh well, see, they didn't do that well. Well, yeah, because you haven't fostered a relationship with people on this platform. Most people had already assumed and believed, at least since the PS4, that if you wanted to play a Square Enix game, you'd have to go to PlayStation or maybe Nintendo for certain titles. And so that's their own fault. And now they're seeing how financially, especially nowadays, is come back to bite them in the ass. So I just feel like this is a problem they've created, but kudos to them for finally snapping out of this slumber of PlayStation controlled sleeping pills to finally start saying, hey, let's put this everywhere. Again, avoiding PC, I think, was just the dumbest decision. I don't know what they thought. Like, yeah, let's take this exclusivity deal with Sony and just ignore the largest base of possible buyers. That made no sense at all. I can see if you did it with Xbox, why would you do it to PC? Stupid. So they, their problems are their own. And like Riskit was pointing out, this weird thing that they have where every game is not meeting expectations. I have to wonder who the hell they have in charge, where they're like, what expectations are they setting? What do they think they're going to sell? Like, are they thinking they're going to have sales like they used to have in the I don't know, the 6th or 5th generation or something? I don't know. I don't know where that comes from, because that's just not the reality of the world today that they're making games in. And even still, I think the games that they've had released like that, like Tomb Raider, I remember them talking about that not being enough. It was another title too, I can't remember, a Western side title that sold what we thought was well, and they were like, oh, it failed to meet expectations. I don't know. It's ridiculous. And
after it sold, like, what was it? How many copies? It was like
something in the tens,
like that. And they were
something like that.
I'm like, for real? You sell 5 to 10 million copies, and that's failing to meet expectations?
Yeah, that's crazy. So yeah, I don't know what's up with them. But it is good for them to finally see the light and be enlightened and bring these games on over here. It's been a long time coming, and it's good too also not to have this doubt that we've always had on the Xbox side of things, where like, are we going to get this game, or and that's part of the problem too. So I'm glad that that little issue is fixed because of this. And what I would hope is that Square, because there's rumor that they're making a remake Final Fantasy IX. And on the show the other day, I forgot who, may have been Danny. He said something along the lines of, hopefully they would bring that and make a deal to bring it to Game Pass. That would be dope, day and date. Now, we still haven't got Octopath Traveler 2. Don't know what the hell happened to that. That was supposed to have launched and landed rather in winter earlier this year. Either like in December or by March, I believe, right? So, but winter is over. Where's the game? So maybe, just to throw it out there, maybe that's a game that they'll be announcing at the showcase that's going to Game Pass. That would be my guess, because part 1 did, and this makes sense now. They probably worked out a deal behind the scenes. What I would also hope, and I'll land my plane here, is that hopefully this, they bring the Pixel Collection, which they had launched on everything else except Xbox, even on mobile. So hopefully that all comes over. We can get all those games as well. Maybe they can find a deal to have that in Game Pass as well. That would be a W. But yeah, finally they see the light. Finally.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing as well. And we're talking about they weren't happy with the sales of Rebirth either. So, it sort of does bring into question, will they bring in the third in the trilogy to Xbox and release it as a bundle? What's the deal with PlayStation behind the scenes? I mean, maybe they have to make that third and then wait 6 months and drop the entire bundle. I heard, I think it was on Unlocked, they were talking about it. It would be, when you think about that, it'd be over $200 worth of bundle there. I don't know. You want to release each one. Blue, jump to you. How you feeling about this Square Enix? I mean, that Octopath move was really weird, man. You put the first one as an exclusive on Xbox, second one as an exclusive on PlayStation. Like, I don't know, if like shooting yourself in the foot is a fine art, then your Square Enix is really good at it. Blue, Tappy.
Yeah. Well, let's just real clear that Square is doing this for themselves and themselves only. It's not because Xbox has come in and asked them to do it. It's not because they hear gamers asking for it on other platforms. It has nothing to do with that. It's the fact that they want more money, right? And they see that obviously putting things everywhere is going to net them the most, at least now. It might have been in the past that Sony was able to provide, such a bump to them that it just made sense. Fine, we'll keep doing this. This is working for us, no problem. But they've had a few games that have come out that have been rough. I mean, Forspoken, right, was pretty rough, and then they've had a couple other things that quite maybe haven't hit the mark for Sony and their expectations. Plus, Sony isn't making as much as they want on their margins right now, so they're probably trimming their budgets and these partnership costs as well. So I think that it's what we're going to see everywhere, is that console gaming and gaming on the whole has kind of hit this, gaming outside of mobile has kind of hit this wall, right? And how they interact or how they get into other people's homes or onto their devices or whatever it is. um they're going to start looking at the current market and seeing how that they can reallocate or pick into that existing market while they're trying to reinvent for additional growth outside of that. And that's just the bottom line.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it mirrors what we're hearing from Xbox, as much as a lot of people have a bit of chagrin. And I myself, have a bit of chagrin about exclusives. And I think if you have a platform, you should have the exclusives. Square Enix doesn't have the platform. There's no benefit to them other than the initial outlay. And so I think for Square Enix, those deals that they're making with PlayStation needs to go north in monetary value, or they need to do what they're doing, which I think is go, third party is what they are, is a third party publisher, is act like they're a third party publisher and publish their games everywhere. Stop making very strange choices like doing an exclusive on of a game on one console and then putting the sequel as an exclusive as a game on the other console. I don't see how that works. Great for PlayStation, because that may bring across a lot of the Xbox guys to PlayStation. It's like, I really want to play, this sequel, so I'm going to have to get a PlayStation. That works for them. That works for a platform holder. Doesn't work for a third-party developer. And not surprising that every game is disappointing. But I mean, I was listening, and you guys were saying, like, Donte, you were saying one of the games, and I'm pretty sure that was Guardians of the Galaxy, that was super successful. It did sell, I think it was 3 million or something copies, and they were disappointed with that. So, like, every game is just a disappointment to them. I don't know. Imagine if they had children. Like, everyone is just a disappointment. Those family dinners would be something to watch. Anyway, Donte, this is a weird analogy.
So sorry, I was enjoying something weird happening in chat. But anyway, so man. All right, listen. I don't, like, none of us really know until someone comes out and actually confirms something. We all just go underneath the assumption that Sony has long had some type of agreement with Square, which has been pretty brilliant to a degree, except for it hasn't worked out, obviously, because now Square's changing their position, right? But they've had this type of agreement where, for some reason, even though they're a third-party developer, they are putting, like, games that Xbox fans, I think, would probably play for sure, are the ones that tend to be kind of like held hostage with no clear date as to when we might see that game on the Xbox platform. And then the games that they choose to go to Xbox are the ones where it's kind of like, oh, well, that one didn't sell too well, but it's kind of like, well, the ones that would have been a heavy hitter is the one you didn't put out, right? So, like, you probably could have caught the attention of Xbox fans with both the Final Fantasy Remake and Rebirth. That's the one I think you could have got the most out of Xbox fans if you're trying to say, hey, can we push our games to the other platform? But you chose not to. So I think now they're starting to see that, like, in this climate where the margins aren't what they expect, and the sales on the PlayStation side isn't basically kind of like, whatever, if they're getting something up front, it's not enough to cover what they're not selling on the PlayStation side. So finally they're saying, you know what, enough is enough. We need to basically maximize as much as we possibly can, and we're going to basically do what we should have been doing this whole time and act like a third-party developer. Now, I don't mind a company having deals sometimes where they're like, hey, we're going to develop this one game specifically for you, or you call it out and you specifically get ahead of it and say, this game right here is an exclusive deal with either Xbox or an exclusive deal with PlayStation. You don't sit there and kind of leave stuff ambiguous where, like, 5 years from now, people aren't going to care. I don't care to see 5 or 7 years from now that Final Fantasy, the remake, ends up on Xbox. The people who really cared about it wanted to play it in the first year that it came out, or year two. So you can't be upset if it doesn't sell well. So I mean, I'm kind of over Square Enix at this point, man, because it's like a weird little gatekeep that Sony has allowed them to do without fully saying, yes, we favor making games specifically for the PlayStation side. That's just the way I feel. So, like, cool. Hopefully it works out for you. Good luck. But at this point, it's kind of like you created this own narrative yourself, with basically being really ambiguous, not putting games on the Xbox side that you could have, that maybe could have made your numbers look better, where you're not saying, this game didn't perform well, this game didn't meet our expectations. It's like, well, it's crazy how that works out.
That's all on Square.
Yeah, it's crazy how that works out when you're not putting your games on as many places as you possibly can, and you're not a dedicated first-party studio. How are you shocked by that?
Yep. Yeah, and I feel the same, man, because I've said many times, like, Platinum games, doesn't matter how good a game they make, I will not touch a Platinum game. Maybe now that the head left, the toxic head, the man who puts tweets out in English and then blocks you if you respond in English. He's left, so maybe I'd touch a game. And Square Enix was headed, for me, like, early in this generation, was headed in exactly the same direction, man. Like, I was like, these guys are just basically shitting on Xbox players. And it's not a nice feeling. It hurts my feeling. Daddy's not happy. We'll move on to the next topic. Before I do, please hit the like button. Share us out. We go live at 8 p.m. EST every Friday if you're in the US. If you're in Australia, that is 11 a.m. West Coast, best coast, like where I am, that is 8 a.m. And we've got a fantastic panel to talk about fantastic topics with a fantastic chat. Everything is fantastic. So it's starting to sound like Snowbike Mike. Shout out to Snowbike. He's an absolute legend. Shout out to Mav as well, man. Fantastic. I know that Mav had to dip out because he's going to set up his show, which is coming up in about 15 minutes. And I've already got everyone redirected over to there. And I would say to you guys, head over and check out Mav. And this is the one thing I'll say. I'll give Mav a bit of a re-up before I go. Now, we have had our differences, 110%. But I love Mav. Mav is a genuine fucking dude. He says what he thinks, and he thinks what he says. And I love that about the dude. And the same with Pong and all those guys on his podcast. And it's one of those podcasts you can go to and you can trust that you are getting the thoughts of the panel members. It's not toxic. They believe in what they're saying, and they don't just try to play the let's talk positive about Xbox no matter what's going on. And anyone else who doesn't do that is a fake Xbox guy. And I really do hate that stuff. And yeah, look, on WWP, I went in there and I love Dirk Griggity as well, but I went in there once, man, and I just said one bad thing about Halo. I think it needs more content, and the chat went crazy. So you guys in the chat, I really appreciate every single one of you guys coming out each week and supporting us. You guys are absolutely amazing, and you are good people in there, and I appreciate every single one of you. What's up?
You mean the WBG, because WWG Weapon Wheel, yeah.
Oh, Weapon Wheel.
Weapon Wheel would have celebrated you saying that, like, yay, trash Halo, yay. But no, listen, I've been on Weapon Wheel myself as well. That's why I'm taken aback by the Andrew guy. Shout out to Andrew. I don't know why you're so angry. Listen, this whole thought that he's
really hurt by you, man. He's hurt by you.
I don't know why. I'm like, what do you?
You're so unfair.
I believe I'm pretty fair. Honestly, I've had people come at me like, "Oh, Umbra's he's trading sides." Like, I've been critical when I needed to. I'm not going to oversell the critical.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest on how I feel always. That's just what it is. If you get hurt by that, I don't really give a damn. But I'm not going to kiss up for Microsoft, just like I'm not going to kiss up for Sony. I'm going to give you my perspective and feeling how I feel. So I don't know what Andrew's coming out with that. Yeah, I know he was saying with Boom and all of that. I think Boom is a pretty genuine guy as well. So I don't know. And I've seen Boom as well clash with people in his audience when they were like, "Oh, you're dooming and glooming." He's like, "Oh, well, listen, brother, you know how Boom talk." But I don't know. I don't understand this anger.
You just made him sound like every white dude. Like, I've just come around to borrow a cup of brown sugar.
Can I borrow a cup of brown sugar?
What is happening?
Yeah, I don't know. Don't be alarmed.
What is happening right now?
Hey, how are you?
How are you?
Great to see you.
Yeah, lovely day out here, isn't it?
Damn,
that's great. That's how I imagine that's how Blue speaks to her neighbors. Hi, how are you?
Top of the morning. Top of the morning.
You saw that blink she gave me?
Yeah, that's the laser eyes, man. Look at that. Look when she's like, that's the laser eyes. You get a close up of that. Yeah, laser eyes.
Burning you down.
They glow.
Burning you down.
They glow red when she's not live, man. I'm telling you. Right? But Weapon Wheel podcast, I'll say as well. The chat's okay, but as much as a lot of people don't like BG, and I have had my problems with him, he's a pretty genuine guy, and he believes what he says too. And I respect anyone, whether I disagree, agree, like or don't like a person. If someone's genuine, I respect that. And I think you always should. So that's just sort of how I feel. Whether you think the chat's toxic, not toxic, whatever. And Umbra, completely disingenuous, always has been. No. Umbra's given as much smoke to Xbox. As much smoke to Xbox as I have. In the past year, I think we've both of us have upset the shit out of people with us going after Xbox because of the things that they've done we don't agree with, and there's nothing wrong with that, man. Doesn't make us not fans. It just makes us it's us asking the company to do better for us as a consumer. That's all that is. Ain't nothing wrong with that, man. And if you got a problem with that, well, you can go and get broken. Moving on to the next topic. Oh, God damn it, we made it to this topic.
Oh, no.
So,
it's time for me to go.
What
is it?
Is this one?
No, I've got the flight's delayed, so I've got a few extra minutes.
Oh, beautiful. Okay, cool. So Ubisoft released and I'll see if I can get this up while you guys are talking when I kick to you guys. Ubisoft released a trailer for the next up and coming Assassin's Creed. Looks absolutely amazing. And then listening to some of the stuff that they're putting into the game, and someone said, I don't know who it was, but it sounds very Splinter Cell-y, with some of the stealth elements in it, and using the light to get around and being able to take out the lights, and then you can sort of sneak. I think it's Yaski. I'm not sure how you say it, but Yaski, he doesn't do a lot of Yasuke, he doesn't do a lot of stealth because he's obviously a bigger guy. So you can obviously switch between Yasuke and Naoi.
Yes, Naoi. Yep.
Yeah, Naoi, and then you can switch between those
You said
two
it right
and
the
say,
first
man,
time.
this looks
Naoi.
Naoi. This looks
Sorry.
absolutely amazing, man. I'm pretty stoked for this, but of course, someone has to come out. So that Muppet, what's his name, that absolutely destroyed every game that he touched except for the ones at Blizzard, and then absolutely tanked the studio. Grums, the guy who you can trust to know what's going on in the gaming industry because he's been so successful, came out and threw shade at the game, and now it's become another DEI conversation. So a couple of things I'll say on this is I'm tired of having this DEI conversation about games that don't require like us having it. You know, there is games you bring that conversation up and I'm like, absolutely, man, Spider-Man 2. You bring that up and you say there was some forced DEI in there. Yes, cool. Absolutely. There definitely was. There were some things that just didn't sort of fit and they shoehorned it in there and it didn't feel right? So I could have that conversation. When you talk about this guy, Yaski, he existed. And from what I could gather, and I didn't do a whole lot of research, but I will dig and do a lot of research because that's why I haven't said much about it online. He was what they call a retainer to, I believe, the Lord or the Emperor, the high ups anyway. And so when you have a retainer for a samurai, they're generally not a warrior, but the retainers to, as you go up the line, as a retainer to someone who's high up, they were very often, almost always, warriors and strategists. And that's just how it works. So I've seen a lot of people saying, no, retainer is this. That's a retainer to a samurai. And you need to understand how the hierarchy worked. And you clearly don't, if that's what you're saying. So he was noted as a retainer to, I'm going to say emperor, and I know that's the wrong word, but he was noted as one of the retainers to the emperor. The what?
Nobunaga.
To Nobunaga. Yeah, so I don't know a heap about it, but I know
conquered all of Japan. He almost conquered.
I know enough about it. And also, this funny thing is, I remember Umbra probably maybe 2 years ago. You popped this in chat about because you thought it was really cool, and it was just about him. You just popped in an article about him, and I was reading it. I was like, that is really cool, man. And should have been like this could make a wicked movie too, man. This could make a really, really good movie. I mean, there's enough, and this is the good thing, and I think Ubisoft themselves said this, there's enough ambiguity about where he came from and where he ended up, and around his sort of life story. There's a lot around his life story, a lot of information, but there's also a lot of ambiguity. So there's enough there to make like a really good sort of fictional, based on a true story. It would be a fucking A movie, man. I would definitely go see that movie. And we haven't had it. I love The Last Samurai. I know a lot of people had a problem with that, but I like that sort of a style, like bringing someone into that feudal Japan from sort of on the outside. So that would be a really good movie for them to make. But I'm really hyped for this, man. This is what I have wanted. And if they have very Ghost of Tsushima combat, I think that would be pretty cool as well. But if they go with the combat they had in Valhalla, I'd be happy. But I think that this is like this game has a lot of potential, and I'm super hyped for it. And I'm just really tired of this DI bullshit coming on in and just sort of taking the excitement out of the conversation, man. Like, I really like Assassin's Creed. I like Valhalla. I'll kill anyone that says it was better than it was worse than Origins. It was the best in the series. Fight you all. But I know a lot of people don't think that, but I love it. So I'm super hyped. I can't wait for it to come out. It's coming out in November. I'm going to jump to Umbra and go around the panel while I try to find this trailer so I can whack it up on screen and get myself a copyright strike. Looking forward to it.
Yes. I wonder if I'm going to get one, by the way, because I played that trailer too. With value.
You did, but you didn't talk. This is the thing. This is the trick, right? You have to talk while the trailer's on. If you're not talking while the trailer's on, they can get you.
Okay, I talked during it a few times, so maybe I'm safe. Maybe
You get away with. You
Yeah.
maybe get away with it.
They'll get me. But yeah, yeah, I'm like you, man. I'm tired of this discussion too, and the reason why is because it's not genuine, and that's the problem I'm having with this. A lot of these people who are raising these issues and complaining and whining, they're not doing this for any legitimate reason. They're doing it for hate, and you have these clowns behind them, like the Grums and and whomever, who are pushing this divide further and further, especially in gaming discourses. It's kind of ruining it, honestly, for me, and for a lot of people. Because they're not genuine. These guys are grifters, and a lot of the people who they've like for instance, this Grums guy I looked and saw, he had like 160,000 now followers. It's like, come on, y'all. You cannot be this much of a sheep that somebody could just like rally you up, rally you into their idiocy and then use you. Like, come on. We're the independent thinkers. I don't get it. But yeah, it's annoying. I like the trailer. I thought was really good. I would have liked to see like gameplay, but I know that's going to happen later. Sure, next month or something they're going to show it, but probably at the Keeley's show, I'm guessing. But yeah, other than that, I thought it was a really good trailer. It did get me excited for the game. The problem with me is that I'm so far behind. I'm on Unity, so I haven't played anything past Unity. So
but they're not linked. I heard
I
you say
know.
that on the fix, and I was just thinking that they're not linked in such a way that you can't. You have to play them in sequence. You don't have to play them in sequence at all. They're like, if you think of it like stories sort of pulled from like different times, and the Animus stuff is like so all over the place. That's the only sort of story like line that's supposed to link through, and it really doesn't. So honestly, you could play this, come back to Unity, jump over to Origins, come back to Odyssey. Like it doesn't matter.
Well,
really
I know
doesn't.
they used
and that's
to though.
a
Like
sad thing.
they used to though. Like
Yeah.
when you jump to Animus, they used to have this whole storyline with the. I don't want to give too much away, but they used to have that. So at least okay, well it's changed now. But I'm the type where I like to play games in order or watch movies in order. I'm very, I don't know, some OCD or something, but I can't jump out of order from let me play part 4 and then go back to 3. I would feel stupid. But I don't know how else to explain it. And thank you, Lotus. So Lotus said they would bail me out. I appreciate that. Somebody said it, and Ollie sure didn't. Anyway, Donte, you got me.
What's up?
I'd be in face to YouTube jail. But no,
Got you.
yeah, no, but I think the trailer looks dope. It is, like you said, I shared that about Yasuke some time back. I learned about Yasuke maybe, I don't know, 6-7 years ago, and I was like, wow, this is real. Like this is a real person in history that existed over there in Japan. Like how dope is that, especially with black people love like Asian culture. We do. It's just a fact. We really do. We've embraced Asian culture. So to see that be a case where you actually have an African who was enslaved and brought over there as a bodyguard to a Jesuit, and Nobunaga sees him and brings him on board as his retainer. I mean, how fantastical is that? And this is why like people like whining, like, oh, what about the Japanese male protagonist we should have had? We get robbed. At a point, I get it, but after a point, it's like you're not really complaining for that. And the reason why I say that is because you have genuine Japanese people who are loving the direction they're going with this and bringing Yasuke in, and he's revered over there. Apparently, like they have statue over there with him. Like they actually appreciate him. Well, people over here don't know about him like that, but they know about him, and that's part of their history. So to have that, I think, and you have these incel types who are rallying against it, but they have no real reason other than, oh, it's a black man inside of a role that you don't feel he should be in. He shouldn't be here. It should be a Japanese, only. I get why they would think, oh yeah, this is DEI and all that. I get it because I think it's a bit of that. If I'm going to be fair, sure, they're probably using him as a controversial eye-catching grab to say, oh, look, it's a black samurai. Yeah, absolutely, that's eye-catching and controversial. I get it. But at the same time, he did exist. This is not something they made up and pulled out of their ass. It's not like he just, oh, we're just going to put some random black guy there. No, he actually existed. So you can't use I've seen people use the idiotic claim of, this is cultural appropriation. Idiot. He was there. You can't culturally appropriate something that he was a part of.
Right.
He's also got a mad Dirty Sanchez, man.
Yeah, he got to get rid of that.
You see that, man?
Yeah, he's got to shave that off. I'm not feeling that. I know the style. He's African though. He don't have the foundational Black American style. So I get it. And it was back in the 1500s.
I like that. It's like a card player sort of gentlemanly cowboy type samurai. Good. Makes me feel like playing this.
Oh yeah. I'm the retainer for Nobunaga.
Sanchez.
I'm Nobunaga's retainer. Yeah, baby. I'm gonna touch you good. But yeah, no, I think again, I feel like it's cool that they have two different play styles with him and Naomi, where she's stealthy and agile, and he's clearly going to be like powerful and like strong, and he's decapitating people and a power type style player. And they have it where you can switch between them at will, much like a Grand Theft Auto 5, for instance. I just think it's really dope, and it gets marred by stupid conversations of oh, he shouldn't be a DEI. It's just shut up. I'm tired of hearing it, and the people who are doing it, like I said, they're not even genuine about it. If I can entertain a genuine discussion and disagreement, that's fine, but you don't really mean that. You're only saying it because it's a black man in a role you don't feel he should be in. And what about the Japanese man? You have thousands of Japanese-based samurai or ninja games where it's just a Japanese man there. The one time where they decide to use, man. I mean, even beyond that, I'm just saying, like, Yasuke, this is not even the first time he's been used in media as far as being anime or gaming. They've used him all the time.
Yeah,
this is not new.
Not too long
ago.
Yeah, Yasuke.
Exactly. And I had somebody who argued with me on like, well, why don't you want a male Japanese? Blah blah blah. He knew to put it like that because he couldn't put a Japanese because he would ignore Naomi, and so he's learned from other people calling people out on that. So I said, well, I don't have no issue with them using a Japanese male, but this is a unique story of somebody who was actually there in the 1500s. Why can't they tell that story? Why is that a bad thing? And
realistically, what has the Japanese Postal Service got to do with anything? I mean,
if I had a tomato right now, I'd be throwing it at you.
Watch that.
Right. I just feel it's so stupid to have that they're not being real about it. They're just fake about it, and it's this controversy because they're forcing it to be controversial. And again, I'm not saying that Ubisoft didn't know this. Ubisoft absolutely are partly to blame. Obviously, they wanted to garner this reaction, like, "Oh, look, it's a black samurai." Sure, but I think two things.
No, I don't think so.
I think two things can exist.
Yeah, I don't. I think they like the Grums. If you read the Grums thing, and then the developer, like telling the story how they were going in one direction, and then they pivoted because of DEI, or like purely because of DEI. Probably that did happen, but I don't think it's bad. Like, I don't think in this particular case it's a bad thing. Like, it's a good story with a good basis. Well, we don't know if it's a good story yet, but the story of Yasuke is a good story with a good basis. It is a wicked way to go, man. If you're going to pivot for DEI, I think this is, again, the way to do it, right? So if you're doing it right, who gives a shit? Like, that's fine. Do it right. And they are. So we should celebrate this stuff. But now what we see is with this Muppet in Brazil and all these other guys is the true colors are coming out. It's not SBI that's the problem to them. It's DEI flat out. And that's the problem to them. And then, you know what, if you cut it back to again, like, what really is the problem is that there's a black man in a game that they don't want it. That's it.
That is it. So let's get to the crux of the issue, okay?
Yeah.
we're not having any of these discussions if it's not a black person who was basically being the character as a protagonist. We're just not having this conversation. All right. If it's someone else, we're basically like, okay, cool. This is the setting, and then what is the story about? Okay. Here's one thing we should get away from too, because I keep hearing people talk about like, oh, it's not historically accurate or whatnot, and it's like, okay, well, yes, he's a real person, so it's like, oh yeah, but still, now it's an argument about what role he held. It doesn't matter, because these games are not documentaries. They basically take real people a lot of times, or they'll take scenarios based off of an event in time, and then they build their own story and narrative around it. We're not watching something that is playing out historical accuracy of an actual thing that went down in the past. So what are you talking to me about historical accuracy? If you're going to argue retainer versus samurai, I don't care. He's a badass guy holding two swords. You know, like his role was he served underneath Nobunaga. He carried Nobunaga's swords. He went to defend Nobunaga's son when Nobunaga was assassinated in the fire. So he was revered enough that basically he was able to carry the weapons. So he's a badass. That should be enough. Let's just, let's move on. It's a badass in a story. If you want to argue with me that like, okay, cool, been cool to have, Japanese characters in a game centered around something happening in Japan, I have no arguments there. That's completely fine. But don't argue with me about the semantics about if he's a samurai or not. It does not matter. This is a video game. We're playing out power fantasies in a video game, right? I'm not playing something that's a historically accurate story. So literally, we're letting the people who are specifically doing this to drive a narrative. They want to do this for engagement. They want to do this to get people riled up on the internet to sit there and talk about that. Yeah, here's another case of DEI involved again, ruining gaming. When really it's you guys who are ruining gaming. You just don't want to see a situation where like the spotlight has to be shared with people who don't look like you. That's really what it boils down to. And it's getting old. It's getting old. Like, play the game. If you don't like Assassin's Creed games, don't play the game.
Yeah.
Don't play the game. It's not for you. Simple as that.
It really is getting old though. Like, it ruins the like, and I'm going to jump to you, Blue, in a minute, because I know you probably do have to go soon, but like it ruins the actual real conversations with the nuanced conversations that we've had here. We've had on Black Vikings show, and that we've had with Kay Asante. Like and Everborn, and it ruins those real like what's cool, what isn't conversations, because when everything is not cool, you know what I mean? There's like it's this blue versus red shit. When everything is like bad on this side's going to be like everything is good and push back, and then it ruins the nuance of any of the conversations. And there is nuance, and there is a right way to do things and a wrong way to do things always. But in this case, and everything that you said, Donte, 110% agree with. And it's got to the point where it is now just racists. Like, it's really, really is. And I mean, I've already made a video about it. I don't want to make any more about it, but it's just become a bit beyond a joke where this looks like a cool game. Can we just like the game? I was just like, I like literally didn't think anything that this would be a problem. Same with Zhao. I should have known better. Same with Zhao. When Zhao was a problem, I'm like, how is this a fucking problem? Like, this is not a problem. Like, why are we having this discussion? And when it comes to engagement, I will tell you this, because I sort of didn't believe it. And a lot of people used to say to me, like, he's doing this for clicks to make money. And I'm like, man, I don't get paid to do Twitter. Are you fucking crazy? Because in Australia, you couldn't. And someone said that to me the other day, and I went to go like, I'm going to prove this motherfucker wrong. So I'm going to go to my monetization and show where it says I can't make money off Twitter, and turns out I can. So, win, lose, win, one of the two. But people are making money off their engagement is my point. So it's a lot of money, like, make $20 here, $20 there for me, but for engagement that Grum's getting, he's probably be making hundreds of dollars off your fucking stupidity. Like,
he has 160,000 followers, guarantee. And every post he makes, every rage bait inducing post he makes gets thousands of replies. He's getting some money, not even hundreds, I would imagine, probably in thousands. Yeah.
I mean, look, to be honest, I in a 3-month block, I made $300, and I was like, what? That's when I went and checked it. I'm like, oh, damn, I can't prove this guy wrong, but I'm gonna go buy some shit. So like, you know, and he'd be making agreed like thousands, like absolutely thousands. So like it's just stupidity of people who don't quite understand that. Also, that doesn't mean that I'm going to start going out there and rage baiting the PlayStation community, because I've stopped doing that. I don't know if anyone's noticed that, but I stopped doing that because it just got old, man. I just want to sort of talk about games. So when I comment on Twitter now, it's more just about like something I'm thinking at the time, or something that happened, or something that someone said gave me a thought, and I put it out there. Blue, jumping to you. Obviously, look, I was super excited when I saw it. I'm like, this looks good. This looks really, really good. And then reading the Ubisoft thing, I was like, this sounds good. This sounds really, really good. Like the stealth elements, fuck, I love it. And it seems like they're really incorporating them heavily. And I love stealth elements in games. It sounds great. So obviously, what do you think of the look of the game? And obviously, I know you're sick of the conversation. I am. I think we all are sick of the conversation and should be having it. But obviously, the DEI stuff as well.
Yeah. This period of time or setting or whatever isn't necessarily for me, but I thought that the game was very pretty. Ubisoft does do a really good job with their worlds, I think. And frankly, I do wish there was a week where this topic was not on the list. I think it's just like every time it comes up, I'm like, here we are again. And I think, people get tired of it. Plus, it's giving it breath when it's a stupid thing to argue, period. Right? Like,
Yeah. I kind of like need to ignore them at this point, because it's exactly what they want to continue to flame their ideas.
100%. It's just like Grumps. Like, I won't open any tweets by him. I won't read, I won't retweet anything where he's tagged or mentioned or anything, just because he came in at a point with a very, like, the first tweet that really kind of bolstered his account and got him to where it was something that was clearly argumentative and just meant to enrage people. And this was not about DEI, it was before that, right? So, and he found that it triggered people, and he thinks it's funny, and then he found an audience, so he keeps going and he finds the next thing, is my opinion. And that's fine, he can go do what he wants. I'm just not going to engage or support that. And that's all that I have to say about that. I just would like to not give space to bad arguments. So
yeah, agreed. And just Cullen Prime, I'll put it back up on screen here, said definition of a samurai: member of a powerful military caste in feudal Japan, especially a member of the class of military retainers of the daimyos. Retainers are samurai. Yes, they are. The retainer system was, they are. It's just, it's nuts to me. It's like the thing with Twitter that spins me out is like, if you just do, and everyone's guilty of it, right? And that's fine. I have occasionally been guilty of it. I'm like, see something, I'm like, oh, that must be right, and I haven't researched it. But if you're talking about something like this, if you just do this, I did the tiniest little bit of research because someone said he was a retainer, not a samurai. I'm like, okay, what was a retainer in Japan? And then it just gave me a breakdown of what the retainers were. I'm like if he wasn't a samurai, he was a warrior, and he was an advisor in military matters to the king, emperor, queen, whatever. I'm not sure what they have.
He would be Nobunaga would be a lord, but he's like under the shogun. But still, you're right, and he was very powerful. But he's in a position as a retainer under a daimyo. That's a super rare position to put somebody in, especially a foreigner. If they did that, that means he gave him like a very powerful position. He was higher than other retainers would be. Like, and going to what Donte even pointed out. Even if let's say that's the case. Let's say he's just a retainer. He never was a samurai, right? Which doesn't add up with him being brought in as a bodyguard to the Jesuit who brought him over there. Okay, cool. Who cares? Why do you need historical accuracy and exact accuracy now with him, and you never needed it before? That's when you know they're full of crap. And like
you can fight mythical beasts and gods in games. Like, what are we doing here? What are we talking about?
You got a freaking mythical apple that grants you powers, and again, Like, why are we having this discussion? Yeah, it's so dumb and unnecessary. And like Sir
Hang
pointed
on a
out
minute.
in the chat.
Do
Oh, go ahead.
you mean that mythical apples don't exist?
It's
Well,
crazy.
yeah,
Sorry
I
to break
mean,
it to you, Riskit. I don't want to be the
hey.
one to listen. Let's talk about the Tooth Fairy too, in case you weren't aware, because I need to
And
break it
Santa
down
Claus.
to you.
And Santa.
And
You know about
Santa.
You
I'm
mean
sorry to
Santa's
tell
not
you.
real?
Santa
Sorry,
Claus?
Riskit.
What do you mean Santa's not real?
Hey,
Got to be the ones to
Who
break
have
it to
I
you,
been
brother.
writing letters to this whole time? Who's been getting these letters?
it was your brother. he was answering it for you.
Is there a North Pole? No. Let's get back to
Oh.
sorry to interrupt.
The South Pole. But no, but listen, yeah, like Sir pointed out too. He's like he said, yeah, so funny. I was wondering if anybody caught that. But like Sir pointed out, nobody complained when Neo had a white Irish man as a samurai. Nobody. And it's I wouldn't expect anybody to anyway. Again, the market is oversaturated with male Japanese leads in these types of games. Having a spinoff story where you're telling this interesting story of this guy who was there in that time and actually part of that history, I don't see how that's a problem. I don't see how that's some type of negative mark against anything else. It's just dumb. And again, I still believe Ubisoft knew that this was some of the reaction they would get. They're using it a bit as a controversial thing, and I think that's why I say I think both things exist. I think they said, hey, this will garner a lot of attention using Yasuke, but at the same time, it's a valid story to tell because he was there and this did exist. He existed. So I just don't. It's just dumb.
It's just a cool skew to, like, U-turn or whatever it is to go on. Like, I don't know, man. If someone said to me, and I was sitting in the studio and they're like, we're doing this whole thing and there's already a Ghost of Tsushima and, like, we've had some really good sort of Japanese samurai games. And then someone was like, there's not really much DEI in this. We need to add something. And then someone was like, hey, I got this cool, like, story from feudal Japan about, an African guy who is named Yasuke was, I would be like, oh, fucking great. That's a great story. Well, it's not forced. If it's DEI and you want to call it that, fine. It's just not forced. I
don't think it's forced either. And again, like I had somebody tell me, they was like, why couldn't he be an NPC? I'm like, why does he have to be an NPC? Why are you fine with him being an NPC? That's okay, but he can't be the main player. Why? How does that make sense to you, what you're saying? I don't get that. It's so stupid.
I used to have these conversations with someone and I used to say, like, why do you need to push back on that particular thing or this particular thing or, like, and it's like, you're going to push back on everything. And because we got to stop them. It's like, well, first of all, who's them? And then the other thing is like, if you push, again, nuance, if you're pushing back on absolutely everything and you stop seeing the nuance in things, all you're doing is damaging your plight. This Grums guy and a lot of the guys, all you're doing is damaging your argument. Like, every time you do this about games that don't deserve the reaction, you're just damaging your argument and you're making yourself look stupid. Like, I have yet to have an intelligent back and forth with someone around this conversation on Twitter in regards to Zhao, and I haven't engaged in this one because I'm just like, oh, fuck this one, I'm not doing this again. So yeah, it's tough.
You gotta go.
Absolutely, Blue.
Go.
It's fantastic.
Bye, Blue.
Where they can find you. Say goodbye to everyone. Blue
Don't you
is
leave
out
us.
of the building.
I'm that blue number everywhere. Come find me, follow me, but not too weirdly. I will not be here next week. I am taking a week off. I've got friends in town. But I am on Tuesday nights on the Renegade Realm podcast, 5 p.m. Central. Not next week, the week after. And then back here next 2 weeks. So thank you, everyone. Have a good week. And
So you're just leaving us like that, huh? That's how you're gonna do us? Okay. All right.
Hey,
All
Umbra,
right.
I was gonna tell you.
Got him. Got him.
Boy, I tell you.
Wait. My
She's-
lord.
Yeah. So
Um,
one little thing that I noticed about this thing when I saw it unfolding, initially when it came out, there were those who had no clue that he was an actual a real person, right? So the first thing was like, oh, this is DEI, because it was just like, oh, there's a black guy playing a protagonist in a samurai outfit with inside of this game. And then once people start saying, but Yasuke is a real person, he actually existed, then you start seeing the change as to, well, oh yeah, but he wasn't really a samurai, he's a retainer. And it's kind of like if you're constantly moving your goalposts, then that lets me know that you're coming from an invalid point, right? Like you're not being genuine in your argument. The point is just that you really want to complain about the fact that, like, why is this the protagonist? And since if you get called out wrong that the person existed, now you got to find other ways to now discredit why that person should be in the game. As to like if it matters if he's a retainer or if he's a samurai, doesn't matter. He's described as this 6 foot something tall who towered over everybody else, and he was extremely strong, had the strength of 5 of their warriors, etc. He's a badass player inside of the game. Let's just move on and kind of go with it, or don't. If it bothers you that much to play a character because the protagonist is going to be a black person in a samurai outfit, then that means that game is not for you, and you should just move on.
Yeah, agreed. The elemental hero, the Shadow Link Dragon Wolf King, that name is entirely too long. We got to shorten that down somehow, but it is cool. He said they brought up many points from Warhammer, SBI, Hellblade, many other. And yes, there is actually some very good points. Like, I wouldn't say from Grums, but there is actually some very good point. There is points. There is arguments to be made. Not about this game, not about Zhao. But when you react to, as I just said, when you react to every game, and the games that definitely shouldn't garner this type of reaction, people are gonna stop listening to you. You get put in the flat earthers camp. You get put in the crazies camp. Like that's what happens. You just stop listening.
The boy who cried wolf camp. Yeah, and we can't. Like you said, I had the discussion on Ham and Loke show earlier, and somebody said, "Well, sometimes he's right." I said, "Yeah, a broken clock is right twice a day." Of course, they make good, valid points here and there, and Demion makes, I think, solid points. Grums might make a point here and there that he listened to them and used, of course, because I don't think he's smart enough to do it on his own. But okay, sure, they'll have a point here and there, but overall, their messaging is not to say, hey, we don't like this thing. Their messaging is to say, hey, we're going to rage farm you and use you for our means. That's the problem. It's not coming from a genuine place. It's coming from a place to use your anger and rage of feeling of being replaced against you. That's what they're doing. And too many of you all are falling for it.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
I wouldn't say anyone, or I hope no one here is sort of falling for it, but the conversation needs to be had from both sides, but nuanced and with respect and like an understanding of like what's a problem and what isn't a problem. Like it's just if you have to explain why this is not a fucking problem to someone, then they're too far gone. Like that's as far as I'm concerned. That's why I'm not even engaging in the conversation on Twitter, because if someone's saying some that this is a problem in any way, shape, or form, you're too far gone. You don't get it. You need to just go back into your hole. And to be honest, I am tired of having the DEI conversation. However, as I have said many times, it is an important conversation that we do need to keep having, and that does need to get out there. So, and especially people from, I think I would call myself a centrist. I would say Umbra is probably the same. I'm not going to speak for Donte, but just because I've spoken to Umbra about this many, many times, we've had problems with forced diversity in games and comics and stuff before, like early on in the piece. But now it's at a point where like I'm very reluctant to call out something that I think is forced diversity because I don't want to get lumped in with these crazy fuckers.
That's you know what? They made a great point. That's a very fair
the
point.
Conversation, man. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Because a lot of them come from a place of dishonesty. It's not coming from I can understand actual concerns where you feel like, okay, are you doing something specifically to try to
push an agenda?
To push an agenda. Like I get it. Yeah. I know some of that does exist. Don't get me wrong. I'm not naive to that. But unfortunately, those who are specifically wanting to inflame it have hijacked it. So when that happens, it makes it hard for someone who has like a legitimate critique that they want to bring in and be a part of the conversation from a place of actual concern and a place of actual honesty. You get lumped in, unfortunately, because you've let the wrong people basically control the narrative.
Exactly.
And now they're beating the narrative every time a game comes out. If you're going to see something that is not specifically centered around, like even for Zao, even that game, which is made by an African designer,
right,
was called a DIE project, project, and it's made by an African designer. So it's like they're telling you what the problem is. The problem is you're seeing someone who is black, then it's DEI.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't want to talk to you at that point. We can't have a legitimate conversation with anything that it's black. All of a sudden, we're having a conversation of DEI. That's just you using coded words, in my opinion.
That's exactly what it is. And it's tiresome, man, because we don't want to have these conversations. But like Riskit said, I'm more centrist when it comes to that too. I have some conservative leanings, and definitely I don't want any forced diversity. I don't want them forcing a character that shouldn't be in something there. But Yasuke is unique in that he was there. Like, relax a bit, y'all.
Yeah, they didn't just say, let's make up some random, black man storm in Japan and see if everyone goes with it. Like, and to be quite honest, if they wanted to, I don't care, because these are not real. I mean, these games are like, they just base it off of certain areas and events and sometimes historical figures, and then they have leeway to create whatever story that they want. But in this case, they actually said, no, we're going to give someone that Japanese culture actually knows existed, right? And we've seen him in other mediums, right? There's actual comics with him. There's an anime with him. So it's like, it's someone that they said actually exists. And even then, that was still not enough for the DEI people to be like, oh man, they were still upset with that. So it's kind of like at that point, you're telling me it's more than forced diversity. You're telling me that you have a problem with diversity if you feel it's too many dark-skinned people who are showing up. And I can't have an honest discussion with someone who's coming from that standpoint. Now, I can have honest discussions where people sit there and say, hey, like, this story was written this way and had this particular character, and this character was whatever, white protagonist, woman protagonist, whatever, or male protagonist, and then we came in and thought we are going to change this to something specifically to check a box. I'm okay with having that conversation. That's a legit, real conversation. Yep. But these ones, when it's just because I see a black face, that is not a legit conversation. We have nothing that we can come to terms and agree on if that is the reason why you had a problem. But you ignored every other thing that involved a non-black person playing a role that should have been traditional to someone who was like, of another ethnic background. And you didn't have any issues with it. That's why I'm like, full stop.
When did you add
Sorry,
that?
I had to do that. 110%. Like, that you absolutely covered it all. And it is the problem. The problem is now I'm really reluctant to even have those conversations. Like, you know what I mean? And it's sort of sad, because then we can't guide, as consumers, we can't guide the industry in a direction, like in a this is bad and this is good way. How do we expect them to do what we want and things right, what people consider right, if we can't have those conversations? And we can't have those conversations because there's too many bad actors. Like, it's really, really tough. And I said this when this first kicked off on Chaos Santes, and I'm like, my concern is this is going to get hijacked. And I was 110% fucking right. It almost immediately started getting hijacked. And then we're not going to have the conversations. Yep. I was Spartan 661. I don't know where this comes from, dude, but I'm going to read this one out. He said, me to first skin with a horned helmet with a great battle axe or hammer. Amon Amarath is a great heavy metal Viking band playing in my head. Let's go.
All right.
I'm not sure what's happening in your house right now. I can just picturing it. He's on the couch like,
he up in there talking about folks will die. I don't know what's going on with you, Spartan 661. All right.
But look, that's pretty much the show. We were going to talk about the PlayStation upcoming showcase, but look, realistically, just on that, there's not a whole lot that I'm looking forward to seeing. This is not me being an expert. There's just not a whole lot they showed recently that I'm looking forward to seeing. If they show Wolverine, that'd be cool. But there's not a lot there. I had a look at what's sort of coming, and it's just not a lot for me that I'm excited to talk about, unless you guys want to talk about it. But I mean, Silent Hill 2 remake, oh, that's cool. Death Stranding, not really. Concord Marathon, Knights of the Old Republic, that's dead. Phantom Blade Zero, I'd be interested to see how badly that's a 1-2 developer that look fake as fuck. So there's not a whole lot that I'm interested in seeing. So like
Phantom Blade is not real. Yeah.
Yeah. So new IP, if they bring some new IP, be cool, but there's not a whole lot to talk about there, man, until they actually show the showcase, because we've got no idea what they're cooking. They've only got a limited amount of studios. Like this, it's not like it's an Xbox showcase where you've got like a list of 26 games are coming, and then there's another there's another 15 studios like working away on IPs that we don't know. Like it's to me it's a boring conversation. Unless you guys want to have it, otherwise we'll wrap it up.
They didn't announce anything for PlayStation yet, though, right? There's no showcase announced yet for PlayStation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
yeah,
I mean, when they have it, I'm sure they'll have something to show their fans, maybe third party, more than likely, because they already told us they were not getting anything from them until 2025, mid or late 2025. Right. So that conversation is over with. Sorry, Bobby Hawk. But PlayStation is about to be dry for a while, brother. But Xbox is about to shine this year, later on this year at least. But no, I don't.
Series S.
Exactly. Nothing really to conversate really with PlayStation yet, because we don't have anything with them, and they haven't announced any showcase yet. It's rumored to have one coming up, but we haven't heard any official word yet.
Yeah, well, Nick reckons there's one coming. And Nick's pretty on point. And Mag also reckons there's one coming, and Mag's pretty on point. The other thing that Mag said, like, people doubt, like, this is the funniest thing, man. Like, it's weird, like, people doubt people that have, like, been right numerous times. Nick's been right numerous times. Mag's been right numerous times now. You can have your distrust, like, initially when people say things. Like, for instance, if people distrust me, I 110% completely understand that, because like Hellblade 2 hasn't come out yet on PlayStation, so I get that. That makes sense. But Mag's been right heaps of times. The one thing he definitely did say was Gears Collection coming to PlayStation. So that's
he sure did.
He also said PlayStation Showcase. So if the PlayStation Showcase doesn't happen, Mag's a liar. No, he's right. Love you, Mag. Shout out to Mag. He's an absolute legend. He looks like, I would imagine, if Bruce Willis could look any older, he looks like that. Like, I know Bruce Willis looks old now. Like if you could age him,
Bruce Willis.
yeah, or like a skinny Hans Moleman, like one of those. Love you, Mag. Shout out to Mag.
Shout out to Mag.
Guys in the chat, please hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. We're going to wrap it up. Share us out. We go live 8 p.m. EST every Friday. If you want to find any one of our panel members, links, they are down in the description. Head down there, click the links, and follow us. Donte, another fantastic show. Thanks for coming through, man, every week. Pull through. Let people know where they can find you, what you're up to, and what you're looking forward to. Hellblade. You're looking forward to Hellblade. Everyone is. You're muted.
That's right. You're right. I am on mute. That's correct. All right. So where you can find me, obviously, is here on Fridays. And then on Twitter, Donte J. Moody. You can find me on Xbox at Spriggan113 on Xbox. Excited for Hellblade, of course. So that's the one thing that I'm waiting for. Can't wait to dive into that. Panel, as always, man, you guys hold it down. So glad we're always able to have some really cool, nuanced conversations. And I love the fact that it's always like nice and respectful. Everybody gets their points across. There's no yelling, and even the chat is always being able to have communication with each other in a nice, respectful way. So shout out to the chat, man. You guys are the best. We appreciate you guys for showing up and rocking with us.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, chat's absolutely fantastic every week, man. Love you guys, even when you misspell soon. You're Danny. Umbra, fantastic week. Let people know where they can find you, what you'll be up to, and how much you're looking forward to Hellblade.
Very much looking forward to Hellblade. If I have to give it a rating of 1 through 10, a 10 rating, I guess I should say, I would say an 8.5 out of 10. Slightly,
for the first one.
Their market. I beat it already. I played through it, okay. So yeah. But I'm gonna pre-install that after the show here on the PC, 4080 Super, and play it at 60 frames per second. Anyway, but I'm gonna. I'm gonna wear sprinkle me with enlightenment, PC. But also, I'm going to wear my headphones with that as well. So I'm going to get that experience that I know they want to give us the audio showcase. I can't wait to see how visually appealing it's going to be at 60 frames with the great audio. Can't wait to try the new combat out. Oh man, it's going to be good. I'm hoping it's really great. 8 hours, I'll probably be finished with it. The next day or something like that, considering work and all. But yeah, thank you all in the chat for being here with us and holding us down. If you all haven't done so, hit the like button on your way out. Much like to echo Donte's sentiments, obviously, much love to the panel. Blue, wherever she's at, being ice cold on her exit like she did. Riskit, great job as hosting, of course, and Donte, of course, your great takes as well, brother. And of course, you guys can find me on Twitter, X Infinite Umbra or Umbra Infinite. You'll find me either way. Tuesdays at 12 o'clock Eastern on Boom's Xbox Factor. Thursdays, my show at The Fix with Daniel J. McGee at 8 o'clock Eastern. And here again on Fridays at 8 o'clock Eastern. See you guys later.
Absolutely, man. We'll see you all guys later. You guys in the chat are absolutely fantastic. We'll see you all next week. And we're going to have a lot of conversations about Hellblade. We'll be giving it very low scores because no one on Infinite got a code. So we'll probably average out at around about a 2 out of 10. 2 out of 10.
Let's go, Hellblade.
Before we get out, just real quick, Donte, what are your predictions for reviews?
I'm gonna say mid to high 80s, so 85 to 80, 88, something like that.
I'm gonna say 89, and only because of the tax. Otherwise, I would say 92. Anyway,
I would love to be wrong. I would love to be wrong.
I put an 86 before when I asked. I think the tax is going to take it at least to an 80, 88, 86, something like that.
Let's go, Yodani, with the 91. Shout out to Yodani. I like that. I like that thinking. You may change my mind, fellas. Change my mind. Let me believe that the tax is not real.
Absolutely. We'll see you all next week, guys. Check you out next week.
Peace, everybody.
What am I doing with my arm? Why is my arm up here like that?
What are you doing?
Were you trying to make the sprinkles or something to pop on the screen or something? Or
are we still live?
We're still live.
I think we are. We are still live.